What exactly happened to Bill Maher is a question that many of you have been writing to me and asking, because he has made some increasingly strange comments lately that don't really seem to fit with the perception of Bill Maher. But I actually am going to show you today a transcript from an interview I remember watching that Bill Maher did 18 years ago. And I am going to argue that Bill Maher hasn't really changed. He's just sort of shifted his focus and shifted what he talks about, but it's the same Bill Maher today that it was in the past. So first and foremost, Bill Maher recently appeared with Fran Lebowitz on his podcast. It was an interesting conversation, but I disagree with a lot of things that Bill Maher is saying increasingly. Doesn't mean I disagree with him on everything, but increasingly he's saying things that don't really make a lot of sense. Here he was sort of glamorizing Ron DeSantis. Take a listen to this.
I mean, compared to Trump, he doesn't have a giant ass. He has hair. You know, he's got,
compared to Trump, he has policies, which Trump doesn't have. And the policies are really horrible.
Well, he does a lot of performative art, yes. Some of it is a reaction to policies that were insane to begin with, like the don't say gay.
Sure, Ron DeSantis does some performative stuff, but it's because the left forced him to.
Bill, first of all, it doesn't say that in it. It doesn't say don't say gay. Parents were not, look, he does a lot of stupid things, I agree. He campaigned for election deniers. That's a big red flag with me.
Yeah.
But parents were not unreasonably concerned that schools had become a place where kids were being exposed to ideas about gender and race that were completely inappropriate for someone 3 years old. You're making my case for me.
They may have been. However, I think he does these things to distract from his real policies, which are, let's stop Social Security, cut Medicare. You know, those are the real things. Look, and especially in Florida, where 90% of the people are already on Social Security.
Right. You're saying he's for, maybe the party is, well.
He is, too. I mean, he is, too. I mean, I'm less worried about him than...
So, you know, kind of glamorizing Ron DeSantis. And sure, he does some crazy stuff, but a lot of it is because he's being forced into doing it by the woke left or whatever the case may be. And then he goes into the topic of COVID, and COVID rules all turned out to be stupid.
Maybe this makes people understand why some of us who called out a lot of the nonsense with how we handled COVID were so skeptical. Because we've done stupid health theater for a long time. It's not new. We've handled almost every health crisis badly, not all of them. And, you know, I found it just arrogant to have such a bad record in the past with health matters. And
now, some of what Bill Maher is saying here isn't wrong. The U.S. has a bad record of handling health emergencies. There was a lot of uncertainty and communication problems and all of these different things. The problem is that Bill Maher presents it all in a way that opens the door to the science deniers and the anti-vaxxers and all of it. And he is being used in that way.
Just tell me, just do what we say. When have we ever been wrong? And then it's like, oh, okay, we're washing the mail. And they told us, you know, like, wear any kind of mask. They're all good. Just some bandana, put a diaper on your head. Doesn't matter. Everything's fine. And I remember Don't Touch Your Face was about a big hit song for about a year. Don't touch your face.
I'm not up on which COVID rules you were opposed to.
They all turned out to be stupid.
Not all.
Which ones?
Yeah.
It was not on the mail.
No, oh no, that I know.
They just did a study. The masks, unless they were N95, and maybe not even them, useless. Which
that I'm
which
unaware of. You know, I stopped wearing a mask when you didn't have to wear it anymore.
And you all remember, it's all degrees, and the masks are increasingly less effective the lower quality they are, and we have studies and we know that, but it's exactly this type of black and white thinking, offhanded, flippant black and white thinking, that opens the door to people who believe anything to say, oh, I was right.
But
that's just...
The vaccines, good. I'm glad there were vaccines.
Yes, I'm glad there were vaccines. I don't please. You know what? If that's your choice, great. There are some vaccines I would love to have and might need and would fight you for. But if I don't, but I should be able to make my own medical decisions.
Well, you are not a nurse, okay? You're not in a hospital. You know, I think it depends who you are.
Right. Well, you're saying they would have to get the vaccine.
Yes.
Well, I mean, okay, but here's something stupid we did that other countries didn't do. Countries I think you would respect. By the way, countries you're going to. I'm going to do your plugs. What a great segue. But like Europe, much more recognized natural immunity. If you're a nurse and you had it naturally at the beginning, which a lot of nurses did, then it was stupid and pointless. And
Yeah, it wasn't really stupid and pointless, because if you had it at the beginning, by the time that the vaccines were out, we started to see an evolution to different variants. And as we know, 4 or 5 months after that, the vaccine's effectiveness when it came to preventing infection was dramatically lower. So your immunity 15 months later to a variant that is not even actually the variant that's out there anymore isn't going to be particularly useful. So anyway, the point here is, I'm not saying Bill Maher's a bad guy, and I'm not saying he's wrong about everything, but he has had this streak, particularly on medical stuff, for a very long time. Let me present to you an exhibit, okay? I remember watching this interview, and I went and searched for a clip. I couldn't find a clip, but I found a transcript. 18 years ago in 2005, Bill Maher was interviewed by Larry King, and he claims that the flu shot makes Alzheimer's more likely and says aspirin is bad. Now, you might say, David, that's just, Bill Maher would never say that. Let's put up the transcript on the screen. Bill Maher says, well, I hate to tell you, Larry, but if you have a flu shot for more than 5 years in a row, there's 10 times the likelihood that you'll get Alzheimer's disease. I would stop getting your, and King says, what did you say? And Maher says, that went better than in rehearsal, but it was still good. Absolutely. No, the defense against against disease is to have a strong immune system. A flu shot compromises your immune system. Now, this has been studied. The flu shot reduces the risk for Alzheimer's among those age 65 plus. This has been studied. It's not even something Bill Maher brought up that hadn't been studied. It has been studied. We know that that is not true. Okay, this was Bill Maher 18 years ago. And then Larry King says, so you don't take any Western medicine? Don't take an aspirin? And Bill Maher says, never. An aspirin, no. Thousands of people die from aspirin every year. And King says, how do you treat illness? And Bill Maher says, I promise you, if you get a headache, the reason for the headache is not aspirin deficiency, which I remember being 20 and watching this and saying, Bill Maher can't be this stupid, right? Imagine applying that idea. Listen, the reason you have cancer is not a chemo deficiency. So why would you give someone chemo? Well, because that's not how medication works. Medication is not about giving you something you are deficient in. Medications work in a lot of different ways, from monoclonal antibodies to antibiotics. So it's not about I lack aspirin. My headache is caused by a lack of aspirin, so I will cure the headache by taking aspirin. The idea that that's Bill Maher's train of thought is very disturbing because it's so stupid. And then Larry King says, no, of course not. Bill Maher says, right, so you're taking, and King says, something to take the pain away. Why is that bad? And Bill Maher says, but why don't you find out the real root of that pain? And Larry King says, well, while you're finding, take the aspirin, which is actually a pretty funny line from Larry King. So the point here is, Bill Maher's had this streak for a very long time. It's not actually new. COVID made it more of a focus for him. And I think that's where we are today.